Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of tonight's show. We're going to talk art, specifically ARTZscape. What's the difference between all the other art that happens here in Sarnia-Lambton? Well, this is held down at Centennial Park, ARTZscape, on the beautiful, down by the Sarnia Harbor here, and all the beautiful water that we have down here at Centennial Park. And many artisans going to be here demonstrating their talents and their skills and all of their art skills. I have to say, and I've said it many times before, I have a lot of appreciation for anybody who can create art, because that's not me. My skill is using my voice. But we're here tonight because we want to talk about ARTZscape, and we've been able to get a hold of one of our, we talked to him last year and we thought he did such a good job. We're just going to bring him back on here again. Bob Gallagher is here in our lobby and joining us right now. Thanks for being here, Bob.
Good to be with you again, David.
Fantastic. It's nice to reconnect with you again.
It is, and glad we're getting ready to do ARTZscape again this weekend.
It seems like it just snuck up on us all of a sudden, like we were here last year, and then a little extra exciting this year with the collaboration of the Tall Ships and a Border Fest. Have you ever seen the Tall Ships before?
I have, but I can't remember where. But I have. I've done the Tall Ships, and I can't remember what harbor it was in. But looking forward to that as well.
Well, hopefully, you'll get a chance to take a break from ARTZscape at some point and get out and enjoy the Tall Ships. But let's talk about you. And you've got quite an extensive background. You've been doing this for like 40 years. Oh,
50 some years. Actually, I sold my first photograph in '65.
Okay.
So what's that, 40 or 54 years or so?
Right.
So I've done a few.
So what got you started in all of this? How did you know that this is something you wanted to do?
Well, I had done photographs as a kid, back when you used to do the roll of film and mail it away, and it would come back a few days or a few weeks later. And at university, I got involved in creating audio visuals and multimedia. And for a while, for 2 years, I ran the audiovisual department at the University of Windsor, as far as the projectors and movie projectors back then, not the TV area, but the other audiovisual areas. And so I studied psychology and then studied communications, and over the years developed a number of different areas of the communications area.
Right. And you've been able to take this and create some income from it and create some travel experience from it as well.
Well, it's a combination. When we travel for both the photography and for my wife's work and my work, and get to some fascinating places around the world. So I will probably have 9 or 10, 12 different countries represented in this year's show at ARTZscape, from 5 different continents. And I get to share that with the people as I do my artwork.
Yeah. And I see, and yeah, you're teaching this as well, right?
I do. I taught 20 years at the University of Windsor in communication studies. I taught the photography and visual communication course. And now I still do some private teaching, both week-longs and individual nights. So it varies. I did one this year. It was an incredible evening, kids photo night, where we took 10, 15-year-olds. And the response to that was very interesting. We'll do it again probably in the fall.
Now, so, when you say interesting, can you define that a little bit more?
Yeah, I had 6 girls in the program, and they were very, very quiet, and I didn't know if they were enjoying themselves or not. We went out on a what we call a photo safari, so went out and photographed in the area we were in, and 3 or 4 of the parents came with us, and I'm thinking, oh, this is really, they're not very enthused. But the responses, the evaluation and the responses from the parents were just overwhelming over the next couple of days. You know, like when are you doing this again? My daughter really wants to go. So it was an interesting. My wife and some of the others were sitting in the back going, I'm squirming. So it was an interesting piece. But I also do Photoshop and Lightroom courses and things like that.
Right. And I'm just was showing your website here now, Bob, and saying that this all started with pizza.
Yeah, we actually offered pizza and pop, water, juice to the kids and to the parents. Parents were welcome to stay if they wanted, or they could drop their kids off, as some did. And after that, I did an introduction to mostly composition. Many of them were using their iPhones or cell phone of some kind.
Yeah.
Had a couple with DSLRs. And so it worked out well. And after the composition, then we went out on the photo safari for an hour, hour and a half around the immediate area.
Yeah.
It was interesting to see what many of them created.
Yeah. Let's talk about, I'm always curious to get this opinion from a photography standpoint. I've interviewed a lot of photographers, some who do, rock concerts to landscapes to all the different types. Mm-hmm. And of course, nowadays, most of us have one of these. I've got an iPhone sitting here. I can take some pretty good quality pictures with it. But you talk to some photographers and they'll say, nope, still need the camera and everything else. Compared, hi.
Hi.
What's your thought on that?
Well, there's an old saying that the best camera is the one you have with you.
Yeah.
And you're right, everyone is carrying a cell phone of some kind. There will be in this show at least one cell phone photograph, 2 by 3 feet, that I did myself. It depends on what you're using them for. I'm going to have prints in this show that are 90 inches wide.
Yeah.
You can't do that with a cell phone. You've got to use a digital SLR to really get that kind of size and that kind of clarity. And it's one of them is a vertical shot down on the jungle canopy. And you can see the veins in the leaves. You can't do that 90 inches wide with a cell phone.
Right.
On the other hand, you'll have the purists who say, well, digital is okay, but you really have to shoot film to get the beauty. And I look at them and go, you've never shot film, have you? Because what we used to do in film, I mean, our digital cameras today, good-end digital camera, high-end digital camera, is the same basic size of chip as we used to use in film.
Okay.
And in film, if you shot in 35 millimeter, you knew your maximum size was probably 16 by 20 without a lot of extra doctoring. Today, those limits are blown open. Yeah. And I could never do what I do today. I could never do back then what I do today with digital.
Right, right. And you've got some amazing things I know you're going to be showing us. And I'm happy now. I see our next guest is in the lobby ready to go. So my heart's not pounding as much as it was earlier. Technology is a wonderful thing. So we'll get to her in a few moments. But let's. I've got some pictures here from you.
Okay.
Let's talk about what we're seeing on the screen here right now.
Well, that's a fall scene near Bancroft, Ontario. It's be presented. Although I can make these in different sizes, but the one that will be presented of this image will be 40 by 72 inches. And an amazing detail in the trees and what can be seen. So it's a stunning, stunning image. It shows what can be done with digital that you couldn't do when you're shooting film. I don't think I ever saw a film image with this much detail in it.
Yeah. It's got to be exciting for you to, especially someone with your length of experience, to see where we were and where we are now. I was having a conversation the other day, just to give a simple example of horse races, for example. The photo finish, the way we do that now compared to, could you imagine doing that like 50 years ago?
Yeah. With the old rotating post and
yeah. Yeah, you know.
I did have a chance to see a number of photo finishes at the Windsor Raceway when it
Okay.
was operating many years ago. An amazing technology, but then they had to develop the film and print it, and
Yeah.
today is instantaneous.
Yeah, the audience were left in suspense, waiting for the results. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Here's another one. Is this one going to be one of your larger ones?
Yeah, it's 40 by 60 inches, so
Yeah.
it's 5 feet wide. 5 feet. People, oh, that's a big print. No, it's the size of a two-seater love seat at 60 inches. You can put it over a 3-place couch easily, but it's certainly nowhere near the width of that kind of couch. The one we saw previously, the fall one, looks beautiful, assuming you've got the right couch colors to go with it. But this one's 40-60, works well over a bed, over a couch, anywhere where there's a room that it can handle it. So this one, by the way, is about 100 kilometers south of Rio de Janeiro.
Wow, there's
on the Atlantic.
There's that travel aspect that that you get out of it.
Yeah.
And you travel how often? Like, would you how often do you get away to get some of these amazing photos?
Through the year, we're usually in Australia a couple of times, 3 times a year.
Oh, wow.
We'll be in Europe 2, 3, 4 times a year, depending on what's happening.
Right.
Asia is not quite as much, but we did do a couple of years, 3 years ago. We were in Asia for 2 months, 1 month, and home for a month, and then back to Asia for a month.
Right.
So it depends on what it is and how the year's falling out.
Right.
And
you say we.
Yes.
You say we. That's
we.
you and your wife.
Right.
Right. And does she? What's her involvement in all of this? Is she just supporting you and your passion, or does she have an eye and a camera as well?
Well, she doesn't display her work, although she is a good photographer in her own right.
Right.
But when I say we travel for her work and for my work.
Okay.
So there are times when she comes with me and I'm doing my work, as I was in Hamburg, Germany a few weeks ago. And then we'll take off for Australia this fall and it'll be her work. So when that happens, especially, I have time to then go and photograph and spend the time outside of being here at home.
Right. I imagine in all these travels and all these photographs that you're taking, you're meeting a lot of people, and you must have like 1,001 stories to share.
There are a few stories here and there, yeah.
Yeah. Are you sworn to secrecy on some of those stories?
Well, I don't. First of all, I don't usually, except in commercial work, I don't usually do a lot of people photography.
Right.
You get into all kinds of copyright and permissions and all this type of thing. And in the commercial work I do, I usually do not tell any stories without the client's permission.
Right.
But I have some fun stories.
Yeah, I'm sure. We can share that when we see. You can share maybe that when I see you in person at to ARTZscape. Now, I want to ask you about ARTZscape because I know you've participated more than once at ARTZscape, and I'm sure you participate in different shows as well. What is it about ARTZscape that makes it unique?
Sandy.
Sandy. Okay.
In one word, Sandy. Sandy, who is the person that oversees ARTZscape, is one of the finest art show producers in Ontario that I've ever worked with. So we go back as much because of Sandy as anything else in Sarnia. Although Sarnia has been good to us with a number of large prints, and this year we're going to do some other. The display is going to be different than usual for me.
Right.
The largest or the smallest prints I have are 2 by 3 feet. And they're on one side of the tent, and the others will go up to 90 inches, 72 inches wide. We're going to do a park-like setting, at the moment, the weather looks like it's going to be fantastic for this weekend.
It is, yes.
Chance of rain and 24 degrees Celsius. You're going to love it, right?
Yeah.
That's what summer art shows are designed for. But it's very, very well run. The Pathways people and Sandy take very good care of their artists, which doesn't always happen in every art show.
Yeah.
Sometimes people think that the artists are the workers, and the strange thing is, I don't know, people probably don't know this, but in most cases, they get, like Pathways gets whatever the donation is at the door, but
Right.
they really make their money by renting the space to the artists. And if it's a wonderful weekend like this weekend, I am anticipating great sales. But if you have a rainout weekend, you may come home with no sales at all.
Yeah.
So Sandy understands that, and she and Bob take very good care of the artists. The Pathway people come in and, can I watch your booth for a few minutes while you go get something to drink or whatever. So it's really a great show for artists to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that more than once from different artists who've been involved, and I guess that appreciation goes a long way, and I guess it's one of the reasons it keeps coming back, and to have that understanding. Let's talk a little bit about the money side of things, because I think, and I'm sure you've experienced, many artists are starving artists. That goes for artists, musicians, or all forms of artistry, I guess, is a way. How does one take their passion of art, whether it be photography or creating jewelry or whatever that is, and turn that into a business? Is that hard to do?
Yeah, it's hard to do because you're never quite sure what the clientele, the patrons that go to the art shows, are going to be interested in. For years, people said, well, you have to have in photography, you have to have small prints. You should have the little cards to sell to people at $5 a throw or whatever. And if you're lucky, that'll pay for your rental for your booth. On the other hand, we started looking at our print sales, and the big prints were ones that were selling rather than the small prints. Mm-hmm. 2-3 years ago, I succumbed to this. You have to have small prints because people don't have a lot of room on their walls. And I made a series, I think there were 10 by 16 framed prints, beautiful images. And all summer we had this every art show, and we sold one of the small prints. And finally I said, I have the printer now that'll allow me the larger prints. And this year, I'm just going to take a shot and see what happens. And the sales at shows have been very, very good. My printer, which you can't see just off to my left, will print images 44 inches wide. Now, 44 inches wide is then the smallest dimension. So I can go 44 inches by 10 feet if I wanted to.
Wow.
So it allows me to make those big prints like the one you saw of the fall colors in Bancroft.
Right.
That's 40 inches because you've got the fold with canvas onto the back of the stretcher. Okay. And you can make those basically whatever size you can handle. My ceiling here is about 93 inches, which is why I top out at 90.
Okay. You've only got so much room.
Only got so much room. You don't want to be doing everything on the horizontal with prints that size.
Right. So, let's talk a little bit more. We've got some pictures here before I've got to move on to Patty Cook, who's in the lobby. But what are we seeing here? This
is the Virgin River in Utah, near Zion National Park in Utah. But it's a very, very cold day. If you look at, and we'll have this print in Sarnia, there's actually ice on top of the rocks.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
There's a tiny area. That's ice on top of the rocks that hadn't melted yet because it's an early morning photograph. I wanted to call it on the rocks, but my wife thought it was a little too confusing.
Too many rocks.
and it's a beautiful photograph, 72 inches wide, so it's a couch size.
Right.
And we've had this for a long time over the couch in our living room.
Okay.
What
about this here?
This is another one of those shots south of Rio de Janeiro. Early morning, the fishing boat's got all the nets in it. They've been dried, ready to go out to sea. And it's just moored, waiting for the fishermen to come and hook up to it and take it out.
And here's another, whereabouts is this?
This is in north of Brisbane, Australia. It's the one I was telling you, shooting straight down on the canopy of the jungle. So the tree, that tree on the right-hand third is probably about 40 or 50 feet high, and we're above it photographing down.
Wow.
It's a neat shot. Here is hyacinths. No, they're not tulips. There are actually hyacinths going in a field in Holland at bloom time. And it's the area where the bloom growers grow their bulbs.
Wow.
And if you like purple, it's a beautiful image.
It's fantastic. Well, you are certainly you're certainly going to be one to want to visit. Come to ARTZscape, and like I said, this is the kind of stories you probably have to tell about how you get to these locations and how you get these shots. And like I say, I'm an iPhone guy, but that's I'm taking pictures of people 5 feet away from me. I don't have to. I'm not into that other stuff. I think it's wonderful, and I have seen your work. The last couple of yeyears. And I've always enjoyed coming by and seeing you. And I'm really excited to see the larger prints that you're going to have this year.
I'm glad to hear that. I think it's one of those shows. It's a wow show. And other shows we've been at this year, people just stand in front of the tent and go, "Wow."
Yeah.
And you don't always get that with the smaller images, because I had a doctor here in Windsor who once looked at my work as I was getting ready for the show last year. And she said, your pictures shouldn't be small. They should be magnificent. And so that's part of the philosophy that I'm doing this year, is to making those images magnificent. And when you see them, they're a large size print.
Yeah.
You'll work in most big houses now.
We're certainly not doing justice to showing it here on the program, but I'll give our folks and viewers an idea. Yeah, Bob, I've got to move on, and I really appreciate your time, and looking forward to seeing you down at ARTZscape by the Bay again this year.
Good talking with you again, David, and I'll see you Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in Sarnia.
Sounds good. Thanks. Bob Gallagher and his photography. Wow is the word, definitely. I have seen the last couple of years of Bob, and I'm really excited to see the larger prints this year. And lots of different things that are happening down at ARTZscape, and not just the art that you'll see. A lot of it is going to be the art that you will hear as well. As I look to my notes, the Celtic Hillbillies are going to be down there as well. Have heard them. They are awesome as well. So lots of music, lots of visual art. And of course, you got to have some food, and you got to have some beverages. There'll be some craft beer and wine down there as well. So lots to tour around and see and take a look at and listen to. And this year, they're going to have a spot for you to, when you make your purchases, you can check them in, go for a walk and tour around some more, and then go back and pick up your purchases. So you're not walking around with one of Bob's big, long pictures right over your shoulder. So that'll be fantastic. Coming up now, thank goodness she was patient enough and we got through all of this. She's in the lobby, but let's bring her on right now. Patricia Cook, or known better as Patty Cook. How you doing, Patty?
I'm great, Dave. First of all, I want to say thank you for your patience. Getting my technicalities all figured out here.
Oh, well, it's part of what I do. But now that you've done it once, you're a pro. We can have you back anytime.
Well, I'll just have to update my phone to a newer one that can accommodate me. That's all there is to it.
Patty, it's nice to see you. I haven't seen you in a while, so it's like Bob there. It's always nice to be able to reconnect. And what have you been up to? And tell everybody who you are and what we're going to see at ARTZscape.
Well, I've been up to my eyeballs creating artwork. It's been quite a year for me. And of course, ARTZscape is always the kind of the big focal event for me every year. And so I've also have a solo show at the Petrolia VPP, which actually opened just this past Friday. We had artists in the lawn at the Lawrence House, and now we've got ARTZscape, this big, huge event that's coming up this weekend that I'm super excited about.
Well, before we get into what you're going to show us here and what we're going to see at Artscape, I want to ask you the same question I asked Bob. I don't know if you heard him, but what is it that makes Artscape so unique compared to, say, other shows that you attend?
The quality. I think the caliber is that, I had some friends come and visit me at Artisans on the Lawn just this past weekend, and they were in Toronto at the art fair in Toronto, and she
Okay.
said, the Artscape in Sarnia is every bit as high caliber as the art fair in Toronto.
Wow.
Is something that both Sandy and her crew have been working towards for quite some time.
Yeah, and that's that's the common denominator response when I ask that question to anybody is that Sandy and but the uniqueness of the event and I guess the high level, as you mentioned, that Artscape brings in, because not just anybody can be a part of this, right? I think there is, and I know Artscape wants, and I want people to understand that it's not like you're not going to see Tupperware here, right? You're not going to see that kind of stuff. This is true, I guess artisan is the word, right?
Yeah, I like that word, artisan.
Yeah. How long have you been doing this art stuff as far as beyond a hobby?
I probably have got real super serious in the last 20 years, if that makes any sense, but more so in the last 10 years since I left my very long-term 30 plus years in engineering design, and then dove deeply into my right side of the brain and
Yeah.
decided to do this more. I figured this is it. This is the second half of my life.
What was the factor that made you jump in and go? Because I mean, uh, money's important, right? I mean, we got to have that stuff to live. So I mean, what was it for you that you were able to take that risk? I guess if was it a risk for you?
Well, not really. I still work part-time. I coincidentally worked part-time at an art store, and was also certified as a custom framer, which actually, oh, I think I'm getting some feedback. Am I?
No, I don't know. You're okay
Oh,
here.
that's just me. Which coincidentally actually even taught me how to take care of my own artwork. Um, on a higher level than most artists. You work so hard on the art itself, and then you got to frame it, right?
Right.
Oh, and I learned the correct way to preserve your work and to mount it properly, so that's really helped, and it really doesn't have to break the bank either.
Right.
So but I have dove completely into all aspects. I like to say mixed media, because I don't like to be put in a box of just watercolor artists, although
Yeah.
I
Okay.
have, right, I have been painting with watercolors for going on 40 years now. Ooh, that sounds like a long time, doesn't it?
Well,
But,
Bob's got 50, so you don't have to worry
oh
about
my gosh, that sounds crazy. But, textiles is another really big love of mine. I've always been very tactile. So I'm kind of infusing a lot of the wet medias together with felting. I've been doing wet felting now seriously for the last 10 years. And the skill set for that has really taken me to some interesting places. And I think also, too, people are now seeing it as more of a serious art form, as opposed to back in the day, it was seen as a craft.
Right. Well, it's a good point. I'm glad you mentioned that because that there's always that I guess perception that I know over the years, just as an observer, I have seen it change, especially in the Sarnia Lambton area. I mean, there's so much talent artistically, from visual to musicians and all of that other in between. Um, do you feel the same way? Do you feel like it is being more appreciated than it was, say, 5 years ago?
Yes, and and I think though too, artists are really pushing the envelopes these days too. They're not afraid to experiment and to do what I call a mashup. I love slow stitch. I love mixed media. I love working with fibers and seeing what I can
Yeah.
create with them, mixing it with acrylics. It's just like, just like in music, they seem to be doing these wonderful mashups with old and new. I'm kind of seeing that's what I'm doing in the art world too. I'm mashing up some old traditional what used to be called as a craft, and kind of developing that into my own style of art.
Yeah, and so I'm guessing, is there a lot of experimentation that goes along with it?
Yeah, I'm a great visualizer. I have a lot of sketchbooks, but for me, I'm that type of person that I don't want to waste any time sitting down, drawing it out and sketching it all out. Like, I'll sketch very quickly some ideas, or I'll even record them. But I feel that I've wasted all this energy, drawing it out and then creating it. I see it visually in my mind already. So then
Yeah.
I'll just maybe do a quick couple of sketches, and then I just go for it.
Well, I wish
So,
I remember. I think it was last year when I interviewed you, and I was telling you, like, I can't draw stick people, right? But you seem to. Well, you had almost convinced me that you could teach me how to create something.
sure.
I can see it up here, but I just have the problem of taking the camera thing would probably be better for me, because I could point and shoot and hope for the best.
Well, that's your gift, though, Dave.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess. Am I an artist too? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Our passion is in whatever creates a visual, well, for visual or an experience, right?
Yeah. I had an art teacher that you probably will recall, Sue Gallo, who unfortunately passed a few years back now.
Yeah.
But she taught me in grade 9 art, and boy, was she patient. Because I couldn't do contour lining or whatever, but she was a wonderful teacher.
Advanced.
What's that?
Contour lining and all that, that's getting into a little bit more advanced. But, I tell everybody it can be taught. You can pretty much get a good grasp of the concepts. And I tell a lot of my students, you have to learn the rules first before you can break them.
Right. Okay, interesting. Well, I'm a rule breaker. I could do that.
Me too.
For those of you who are just watching us, I'll just hit a bit of a reset button here. Earlier, we were talking with Bob Gallagher, who's a photographer coming to Artscape by the Bay, who will be there at Centennial Park this Saturday and Sunday. And now we're talking with Patty Cook, and she's going to be there as well. If you have any comments or questions that you'd like to, right now, ask Patty, you can do that. Make sure there's a special link above, because we're broadcasting on about 8 different platforms right now. We're only going to see your comments on Facebook if you click on that direct link, and I'm sure Patty would be happy to take your comments and answer any questions. What about teaching? Do you do any of that as well, or are you just strictly the creator and you're just putting it out there?
No, I do teach, and I found that I do classes, and because I have my own studio, I share, and in order to pay the rent on that, I've been doing classes. But I found that, I get such a great satisfaction of sharing what I know, the skills that I've learned over the years. And so I've been doing a lot of needle felting classes, basics watercolor, basics drawing, and I do a lot of creativity classes as well. Right.
Okay. Now, you mentioned you have a studio that you share with. You have like a partner that the Scrum Sisters.
A silent partner for now.
Oh, okay.
My Scrum sister, Karen Watson, who is also my fellow Scrum sister of Scrum Sisters Studio. We're both the founders of it. So, yeah.
Very good. So you're going to have a lot on display for us to see at Artscape? Like you're going to have, give us kind of a description of what we're going to see there.
Well, as I said earlier too, I'm going to have a little bit of a mashup between, my fibers. I'm going to have a lot of my felted bowls and some of my, I probably should have some of my shawls there too, but I'm trying to introduce a little bit more of the fine arts mixed in with the felted and the stitching. Right. The textiles with all of that mixed media. Let's just say that.
Yeah, right. What about the people in this? I mean, you're going to come across a lot of people this week, especially this year with the Tall Ships and Blue Water Border Fest. Everybody collaborating. Do you get to have many conversations or is it expedited when you're talking to somebody, or do you get to spend that time with the people who are looking at your artwork?
Yeah. So this is the best part for me. I love people. I love to interact with people. I'm actually what you call one of those outgoing introverts. So you know what I mean? Like
I
I'm
do.
at I'm in my space. I gather all my energy, and then when I get out to these outings, I really enjoy interacting with people. And this is a wonderful opportunity. And I do interact with a lot of people. They have a lot of questions when they look at my work, and
Yeah,
they want to know about felting or things like that. So I just love to share it. And I mean, it's exhausting though,
sure.
but when you know what it's like when you're interacting with a lot
Mentally
of
exhausting. Yeah.
yeah, it's a huge energy exchange. And but I'm always really, really happy. I often look at it as, I know you were talking with Bob, I overheard where you were saying, about the money and making your money back and that sort of thing. And I often actually look at this as, you can't pay for that kind of advertising. Anytime that you can get your work seen and interact with people, that's about branding, right? And it's about
Yeah.
sharing what you have. And the more that people see you, the more they remember you. So this is I think it's 7 years for Artscape now. I think
I
this is
think
their seventh
I
year.
think it's 6.
Okay, so six. So
Yeah.
I've been a part of it for 5. The first year I didn't get to do it because there was a mix up. They ended up over by the Bridgeview Marina.
Oh, right. Okay.
So it
Okay.
would have been right from get go. But I've been a part of it for 5 years, and every year it just gets better. This year's extremely huge. I'm excited what's coming.
Have you ever seen the tall ships before?
No,
So
no,
you get some time to go do that.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah. What about networking with other artisans, as the word you'd like to use? Do you get much of an opportunity to do that? And is that must be beneficial if you do?
Oh, if I have someone to kind of take over for me for a little bit, then I can. I, with that being said, though, I have met other artisans there that have been there repeat, and it's wonderful to connect with them again.
Yeah.
And usually it'll be at the dinner that they had afterwards, that where we can connect with old acquaintances, so to speak, and you talk about the show or what have you. But as far as really interacting with others, you don't really get a chance because you're minding your booth basically all day
Right.
long, right?
Yeah.
So,
And I know Bob mentioned too that they're really good about coming around and making sure that everybody gets a little bit of a break. I mean, you got to refresh your break or get
yeah,
some bottled water or something. So that's helpful as well.
yeah.
I'm showing. I don't think you can see the pictures that I'm showing.
Well,
Um,
that in particular, I think I took that at a show. That's not
okay.
mine.
Oh, okay. All
The
right.
quilt,
All right.
it's not mine.
This
But
is
all
what
the
you
other
took
things
from
that
your
you were doing.
Facebook. This
Yeah,
is
so this is part of a class. These pictures right here. This is part of a watercolor class and working with values and teaching values and glazing.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
What I could come back to this money thing because I'm always curious as to. I mean, you said earlier you can't put a price tag on, but you do have to put price tags on these things in order to support what you do.
That's the
How do you
start.
how do you come like how is that price tag like? How do you come up with that's $100 or that's $500 or what's the process for you to decide that?
Well, that's the biggest conundrum, Dave. Every artist will give you a different answer. Um, if you go too low, then you're insulting yourself and other artists. I've been at this for quite some time now, and I'm a well established in my district or my area. I haven't really gone outside of Sarnia so much, which is what my goal is. I'm hoping to maybe be successful in getting a grant and really working on
Oh
an
wow,
outside
okay.
project. Yeah, I've been saying that for a few years now, and I don't know how to write a grant, but I'm hoping that I can get a focus and help somebody or have somebody help me do this.
There are people
But
that do that.
yes, there is. And it's just finding the time. But I'm at that point in my life now where I'm really quite serious about wanting to spread my wings a little bit. So once that happens, though, you can't go back down to the Walmart prices, so we say.
Hmm.
Uh, and it's unfortunate. However, the people who do appreciate art will pay for it. And, and it's about a caliber, a skill level. So unfortunately, some emerging artists make the mistake of saying they've listened to their family members and they say, oh, put $1,000 on it. And then they wonder why it's not selling. There is a time, I don't even know what the correct saying for that is, but you kind of have to earn your numbers a little bit.
Yeah.
And and your skill set actually will help set some prices for you too.
Yeah.
Creativity has a lot to do with it. Yeah, so there's a lot of different factors. I think skill is probably maybe the biggest.
Okay. Do you, is there that negotiation factor? Does that come into play sometimes? And do you say no?
No, you really shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
It's good for you too. And if somebody comes up and wants to bargain and talk you down for your artwork, don't give them. No, walk away. If they're saying
I
that
agree
your
with you.
time, right, your time isn't valuable, and for an artist, oh my gosh, like there's sometimes I'll spend hours and hours on a piece and like maybe 8 to 10 hours on something, and then it only goes for $50 or
Yeah. Well, I've always
Yeah.
looked at it. I mean, like, and the reason I asked that question, I was leading up to this, because I want people to understand, as someone who's not an artist in that sense, I really appreciate Artscape because of the level that is there. This is not a flea market of paintings or pictures of motorcycles or whatever, the 10 things. This is people who create from scratch and put their love and passion into it. I've had people, one of my favorite lines, if somebody tries to negotiate with me for something, I say, where do you work? And like, how much do you get paid an hour? Don't tell me how much you get paid an hour, but if your boss came to you and said, we're having a bit of a slow week, could I pay you $18 an hour this week instead of 20? Would you be okay with that? I don't think most people would be okay with that. And I'm pretty harsh about saying that, because I really wish we need to get more people to understand. I think it's because they don't see it created. They just look at it and then they go, oh, well, that's only, I don't know. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, absolutely. And the worst thing you could say in front of an artist is, "Oh, I can paint that." Well,
I'm the last guy, so I'll give you full price.
yeah. I mean, a lot of artisans have to smile and just bear with it. I even had somebody ask me once. I was when I was doing portraiture, and I had these little Saint Nick's, and somebody asked me if I peel and stick them on there.
What?
It was, yeah, they asked me if I did a peel and stick for my faces.
Wow.
Yeah, I never quite got over that one. I just it's still in my.
The price goes up for that guy.
Yeah, and and then you'll get something like, well, how long did it take you to do that? Now, this could just be conversation starters for some people, but usually my response to that now is all my life.
Good for you.
So these are the skill sets that you've been working at all this time, and it's brought me up to this point where I've created this right now.
I've had the same response. You and I are on the same page. Well, how do you do that? It's about 20 years of working at it and figuring it out. Yeah.
Right?
Experience is invaluable, right?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I will never stop learning. There's always people that I'm always going to take workshops. I'm always going to be in school. I love it. I love to learn. I love to figure out, if there's a new product on the market, I'm going to try it out. It's just about evolving, right? We make adjustments all the way.
Yeah. When the people come through, I mean, there is a certain level of people who are going to appreciate it. And then there's others who are just browsing that will appreciate it, but are not purchasing. And that's a certain age group and demographic. What about children coming by and seeing you? Is there some joy in that? Because I think children probably appreciate it a whole lot in a different way than we as adults do.
Oh, that's my favorite part. I love it when the kids come by, and I'll usually have something. I'll needle felt a little toy, or and this part also though too is the felted works, the bowls. they'll come in and that's the first thing because they're very tactile. They want to touch the bowl. And
Yeah.
then of course, parents are like, I don't touch that. I'm okay with that. And, they want to be touched, right? And it's just like a house. House needs to be lived in. Well, my felted works need to be touched.
Yeah. And I guess that's one of the cool things about what you do is that you can, right? Because there are some things you're like, whoa, don't touch that. Just look
Exactly.
at it and stare.
Yeah,
Look at that big shiny thing that I can't touch.
that's right. Yeah, so I'm in a very good position that way. So I like to make ahead like little needle felted little things too, where they can be very tactile with them. And I love the exchange.
Yeah. Yeah. It's looking like fantastic weather. I think Sandy and the crew called Mother Nature in advance and said, don't you dare.
I know, right? Oh, I'm so happy.
They've been really fortunate with the weather the past few years. And I know this is an exciting year, its own uniqueness already, but with the Tall Ships and Blue Water Border Fest all coming together. I hope you get a chance to get out and see the Tall Ships too, Patty, because
I really so too. I'm planning on it.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add in here before I let you get back? Because I know I appreciate you taking about out of your time to you've got a lot to get ready for Artscape yet, so I appreciate the time.
Yes. Well, it's just we're down to the 0 hour, and you think you got it all together, but then there's always that last minute, like, oh my God, I work really well under pressure, and some of my best creative spurts come out of like deadlines, right?
Right.
And we're down to that 0 hour now, and my mind is just it's just like, it's just crazy. Oh, I want to try this. I want to try this. So it's really hard sometimes to rein me in. And right now I'm just saying to myself, Patty, just focus, finish what you got going, and let's just have a lot of fun. So I'm just going to say to everybody, you've got to get down to see the Artscape, the quality, the hard work of Pathways. Like Bob even said, Sandy Grimshaw and her crew, her husband, Bob, they're just fantastic people to work with. They're very accommodating. And the Pathways group, I couldn't think of a better group that I want to donate my booth cost to,
Yeah, fantastic. I appreciate you pointing that out and making sure that everybody understands that this is also a fundraiser specifically for Pathways Health Center here in Sarnia Lambton. Patty, thank you so much. I will. I'll make a point to come over to. What booth number are you?
56.
56. All right, 56. I got that written down here. I will come by and see you Saturday or Sunday at some point. I'll be there Saturday. We'll be broadcasting live. I'll probably talk to you again.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. So take care.
Thanks, Patty. Bye now. Patient Patty Cook. She said I was patient. She was patient trying to figure this out. And come on here. She's a pro now. Talking about Artscape by the Bay and just two of the artisans that are going to be there. Bob Gallagher, who's a photographer with 50 years in his pocket of experience. And of course, they're just talking now with Patty Cook. Here's some of the other things, and I'm going to read this because I want to make sure that I get it properly, because there's so much going on beyond just the artisans. As I said, there's going to be some musical entertainment. The Celtic Hillbillies on Saturday, they'll be in the food court. Sunday is the Bruce Dean Trio, fantastic. And the Pirates will be there both days with crafts and toy sword fights and stories and autographing pictures of the captain. So bring the kids down to Artscape as well, because there's stuff there for them to do as well. The chalk artists are going to be there creating 3 pieces of work that will be available for silent auction as well. And they have an Indigenous program with performances, and they'll be selling their work as well. So lots of things covered down here, and different cultures involved as well, which is fantastic. I always love to see that. Food trucks are going to offer their selections and treats. And of course, there'll be cool beer, craft beer, and homemade wine down there, or craft wine, I should say. So come on down to the pavilion and join that. This is all happening starting on Saturday at 9 o'clock down at Centennial Park. I'm going to be there broadcasting live on Saturday from 11 till 1. So we'll be showing you a sneak peek of some of the other artisans that are going to be there at Artscape by the Bay as well. But don't wait for me to go live. Just get off the couch, come on down, get the kids together, whatever you got to do. It's going to be beautiful weather. And take some time out to enjoy the Tall Ships, and Blue Water Border Fest is going to be there as well all throughout the weekend. Boy, it's going to be busy. I will sleep on Tuesday, I think. I want to say thank you to Artscape by the Bay for allowing me to bring on these guests and share them with all of you. And again, remember, this is a fundraiser that is going to support the Pathways Health Center here in Sarnia-Lambton, a very much needed facility and a very well-run facility, but it does take the money to keep it going, just like anything else. So when you come down and support ARTZscape by the Bay, you can make donations to come in as well. And of course, all the booths are donated back into the ARTZscape by the Bay fundraiser as well. Wow. I think there's so much more that I could talk about, but you just got to come down and see ARTZscape by the Bay starting this Saturday down at Centennial Park. Thanks again for watching, everybody. If you're watching the replay, you can still post any questions or comments, and we'll be sure to respond to them. Thanks for watching again, everybody. We'll see you down at ARTZscape by the Bay this Saturday down at Centennial Park. Bye for now.